into the My Positive Perspective Internet show today, where we feature individuals and groups who share the common goal of benefiting the local Charleston community. Today's episode is brought to you by Vistaprint, who reminds you that first impressions are always important. Today's guest is Mr. Jack Tracy. So, how you doing, Jack?
Jason, thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for taking the time to join us. You have been and continue to be, I'm sure, involved in a program that assists the local Charleston community of Darkness to Light. Could you tell me a little bit about the organization?
Absolutely. Darkness to Light is actually international in its mission, and does a great job nationally. But it was started right here in Charleston, South Carolina. Originally, it was called From Darkness to Light, and then later they had a shift over in the board of directors, and they had a new focus. It rebranded itself, so to speak. Right. And initially, it was towards helping survivors of childhood sexual abuse come to grips with the many issues that they have. And when they did their restructuring, they started to direct their efforts towards educating responsible adults to prevent. So that was their mission, was the prevention of childhood sexual abuse.
Yeah, and you know, a really tough subject to deal with. But, I mean, if you ignore it, it gets so much worse than if you treat it and help these victims and talk about it, and then they can be, you know, then they can put it behind them, and then they continue on with their life.
And you know, it depends on it, because the nature of the experience and what happened to any one individual, it's like being burned. Were you ever burned? Oh yeah, I burnt my little finger one time on a frying pan for an instant, or I had third-degree burns over most of my body. So yeah, you've both been burned. How badly? You know, what was the experience? And it doesn't mean that if you only had the little burn on your little finger, it didn't mean you were never burned. It just means that it wasn't the same depth or the seriousness of the issue. Yeah. So there's an awful lot of things that people that are in those situations have to face, and that's really no longer the mission of Darkness to Light. What they're trying to do is to train responsible parties to recognize it and to prevent it. And that's what we talked about when I was a media consultant for Darkness to Light, and I came on board there, and for 2 years, let's see, it was 2009, 10, and 11. So during that 2.5-year time frame, I was in charge of a lot of different aspects of their branding and their media promotion, and we had public service announcements that ran on television and radio all over the country. Tens of millions of dollars. Myself and Mariah Sweezy, who's well known in the Elam-Ocenary circles, and Laura Fogarty from the Isle of Palms, who is a child protective advocate, and really at the forefront of discussions of childhood sexual abuse in the nation, because she comes at it from a lot of different ways. She has children's books on the topic. She has a national column with the Stop Abuse campaign out of New York City. So the three of us primarily were the media team. And so we also hosted training for the public. We also hosted trainings for the staff of Darkness to Light, so they would know how to speak to the media. So it was a multifaceted approach that we took.
Great.
And it was we were really proud of the work that we did, but it's such a difficult thing to get into, because people that have been sexually abused very rarely talk about it. They just don't.
You mentioned, you know, the goal now is prevention and ways to tell if this is happening. Let's talk about the prevention real quick. How does somebody make sure they stay in a safe environment, a safe situation?
It's the job of adults, first of all. Let me just be clear about that. So many times, like, you know, people will say, "Oh yeah, stranger danger." Well, that has nothing to do. This isn't something a child can protect themselves from.
Mm-hmm.
99 times out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, it's a ploy. It's a play by somebody that knows that child, that'll take the time to seduce the child into a setting or into a situation where they can take advantage of them on an ongoing basis. It's not so much, for example, if I can be blunt, like, little Susie had a sleepover at little Sandy's house, and Susie's brother put his hand on her behind when she was in her pajamas or something. It's not simple like that. It's not a crime of opportunity. It's a responsible adult that you is in a position of responsibility that has this mindset that they're going to set out to sexually abuse children, and they'll take advantage of those situations any way they can. So you have to, if you're a parent or a guardian or a teacher or someone who's a responsible party, you've got to think about the safety of your children. Let's say your child's going to be taking piano lessons from Miss Johnson or Mr. Johnson.
Make sure you know Miss from Miss Johnson.
And have referrals, and make sure if the door's closed, there's a window in the door.
Yeah.
You don't put your child in a closed room, in a closed space with somebody that you don't know anything about.
Right. That's kind of common sense.
Yeah. But then again, so many people are like, oh, okay, well, I'll just be out here in the waiting room. Doctors, physicians, a terrible situation with the pediatrician in Delaware about 3 or 4 years ago, where, of course, doctor's going to examine little Timmy now, and he'll shut the door, and
Yeah.
So, there's an awful lot of things that you got to be aware of. You have to look at behaviors after the fact. If your child becomes more and more withdrawn, if they're
more and more withdrawn,
very protective of their own private parts, or they don't, they'll hold on, they don't want to, they're not dressing in the same manner as they used to, or if they go the other way, if they become more exhibiting. If they're in a situation where this has been happening to them on an ongoing basis, they're acting a little more beyond their years sexually. They might, their language changes, or their behavior towards other children, younger children especially, where you are thinking, wow, Johnny wasn't like that with these younger cousins last year. What's going on? And it's so difficult, and it's insidious, and it's just, if you go through the Darkness to Light training, and there's some other trainings available, absolutely, that you can go online and research this fully. But Darkness to Light here is the home base, but it's all over the country, and it's D, the letter, 2, the number, L, the letter, .org, d2l.org.
Okay.
And
so people can get in touch with.
They can take a look at the 7 steps that you use to, to talk about awareness and prevention right off the bat.
Sure.
And there's training that you can take, and it's offered here in the Low Country, and it's offered all over the country through organizations like the YMCA and other things like that, where it's a 2-hour and 15-minute course. And for example, businesses, Sky Zone, for example. Here's a place where it's a staff of young people that have just come on board, a brand new business. The place is full of kids. The business owners at Sky Zone, they're like, we're going to train our personnel just so they know some of the things that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a training session right at their business coming up this month in June. And the exchange clubs have been very supportive of Darkness to Light, and those people get trained. The churches, Vacation Bible School, and summertime is a really important time for everybody that's in the position of making sure that the children in their care are safe, are very aware of it, and parents have to be very aware of it, because their kids they're in new situations, they're in new surroundings, they're taking lessons, they're going to camp.
Yeah, confusion is one of the things.
And there's no, you can't say, well, my child's 9 now, I better start with, no. It could be at any age. If you're not an adult, you can be taken advantage of by an adult.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. It doesn't matter if you're 2 years old or if you're 16 years old.
Yeah.
If you find yourself under the influence of one of those people, you're at risk, and the people around you have to make sure that you're not at risk.
That's good points. Thanks for taking the time to come on and told us about Darkness to Light, another great organization that is started here in the Low Country and benefits people all over. So
absolutely, and if you have questions about it, you can look up. There's a column I mentioned. Laura Fogarty, Ask Lala, ASKLALA, Ask Lala at the Stop Abuse campaign. You can write to her and ask any questions you want, and she's a tremendous voice of protection, and she'll get back to you, or she'll answer it in the column itself.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much
for
taking the time.
Thanks very much, and I really appreciate the show that you put out, and giving everybody some hope for more positive perspectives.
That's what my positive perspective is all about. So thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
On a sunny day, I feel my thoughts drift away. Only good vibes and good times living in my brain. On a sunny day, catch me lamping in the shade, feeling so fine and so high. Oh, my sunny day, still I hope all my efforts will one day pan out. Love within, you'll never be without. So I roll, feeling strong and so invincible.